Hello, everyone. It's Seth. Probably. Oh, sorry. Let me try that again. What?
I'm keeping that in, by the way.
Hey, everyone. It's Jake Blazik, along with my co-host,
Jacob Neal.
and welcome to the third episode of Majake the Gathering. We're very excited to keep this ball rolling. We're always excited to record new episodes, especially since, like we established at the beginning, we're only doing these monthly. So it's always a
Yes.
good time to get to have a little bit of banter at the beginning to kind of catch up on what we've been up to over the last month, and yeah, just have a chance to sit down and talk some Magic because that's why we do this whole thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's always nice to sit down and just kind of to BS for a bit before getting to the nitty gritty of these decks.
Yeah, and so like we kind of gave you a little snippet of what we're doing this week. We are talking about a four-color Sultai Stoneblade deck that I brewed up myself. I was actually able to bring it in paper because I own all of these cards to the SCG Dallas tournament, which we will talk about probably in pretty good detail in just a little bit. But it was super fun. We
Oh
had a
yeah.
great time doing it. I know Jacob spent a lot of his time over in the command zone.
Yeah, 9 hours of just Commander. My butt and my brain were hurting.
Mush. Both
Yeah,
mush.
pretty much.
So I got to play in a couple different events. I did not play in the main event, although if I had, I probably still would have played this four-color Sultai Stoneblade deck. Um, but I'm happy to have not played in the main event because I can't sit there and be hyper focused on incredibly competitive Magic for 9 rounds in day one and go 2-7 and just feel really bad about myself.
Yeah.
So I decided to do all side events. I played in actually I got to play a little bit of Legacy, which was so much fun. Now I don't own any really actual Legacy cards like Dual Lands and Force of Wills and all that jazz. But a good buddy of mine who went with us to the tournament loaned me all of that stuff so that I could play a blue-white Hull Breacher Days Undoing combo deck, or combo control deck, which was so much fun to play. So shout out to you, Kaysen. I appreciate you so very much for letting me borrow all those
The
cards.
goat.
And then I also got to play some Popper, which I had never actually played paper Popper in any kind of tournament. So that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was just like overall just really fun time. Um, it was also like super strange because like typically when you go to cons, like especially like Magic cons, you go to commander section, you typically run to like super spiky players, people who like running pretty like degenerate stuff. But like all the games that I had, like it was fairly close, power level wise, which is really fun. Where we didn't have one player like, oh yeah, turn one, mana vault, mana crypt.
Flash Hulk.
Yeah, exactly. It was actually like a nice, like fairly balanced play, which is like super fun. That's why I ended up playing from like 9 a.m. to like 7 or 8 that night.
Yeah, I remember we were gonna stay 2 nights and play a little
Yes.
bit on Sunday, and after Saturday, just being there all day long, you were like, okay, well, I'm really tired, and I only live 45 minutes away, so I'm gonna go home. I was like,
Yeah,
fair enough,
pretty
man.
much.
That makes sense.
Yeah, we
And
stayed
so
in like a pretty janky like Motel 6. Um,
it was
I
it
mean,
was fine. It was
yeah,
livable and clean at least.
yeah.
So it wasn't the perfect hotel, but it was nice.
It's cheap and it was easy, so
Yes, that's the most important part is the cheap, so that we could actually spend all of our money playing Magic.
yeah. I picked up some cards there. My girlfriend's super into like Shibas, so I got her the ever faithful Shiba card that came out from Neon Dynasties, and I also got like a I forget that Imperial Recruit is like $7 nowadays,
Yeah, the card
which
is.
is like super great.
It's modern legal too now, so Maybe we
Yeah.
can brew up some decks with that too. I know that it can fetch Felidar Guardian, one of my favorite cards. So
Ooh. Let's go. Yeah, I picked up that, and I also picked up like a gamble because I never like had a gamble before. So
nice.
yeah, lot of good things all around. Had a great time, um, and then yeah, we played a bunch of Magic. Yeah, why don't we kind of like just go over like your leagues that you played? How did those go?
Yeah, so I'll save the modern ones for whenever we actually get into the actual deck dive.
Yeah,
But yeah, so I actually have my pad right here where I wrote down every single deck I played against. Um,
nice.
and so my first tournament that I went to was a Legacy Challenge. So um, on Friday, we went up on Friday, and I got to play in two Legacy Challenges, and that was what I did on Friday. So the first one, my friend Kason and I, we were like 15 minutes late to the start of the tournament because it was just um, everything went through the companion app,
Hmm.
which is kind of garbage. Sorry, Woods of the Coast, sponsor us. Um, but yeah, the companion app is not great, and also they told us that like pairings were going to go through MTG Melee and then and through the companion app and whatever, and it
Hmm.
didn't tell us that like we were looking on Melee and we didn't see any information about it, so we're like, well, what is happening? So we kind of like walked around until we found Legacy. We're like, hey, when did this tournament start? And they were like, 15 minutes ago. You're late and you've got a match loss. I'm like, what the
Oh,
heck? That's stupid. So Kaysen was very upset and
yeah.
just went ahead and dropped the tournament, got his money back, luckily. And so he was like, I'm not even going to play friendly games because I'm just so upset. So I was like, okay, well, I'll sit down and play a friendly game anyway with my opponent that I would have played against, even though he
Hmm.
got the match win. So I was playing, like I said, the blue white Hull Breacher Days Undoing control deck, um, and
Why don't
I
you like walk us through the combo of like
sure yeah
what
yeah.
makes it a combo deck?
So it's Hull Breacher, which is from
Hmm.
Commander Legends. It's a 3 mana 3/2 with flash. It's a Merfolk Pirate. Cool
Hmm.
card. And so if an opponent would draw a card other than their draw step, they don't, and I make a treasure, basically.
Hmm.
So, and then you play Days Undoing, which is the 3 mana Time Twister, basically, but it automatically ends the turn if it's your turn. So, if it's my turn and I cast Days Undoing, I don't get to, like, we Time Twister, but I don't get to do anything with those cards because the turn just ends and it exiles the Days Undoing itself.
Yeah.
Um, so that's the combo aspect. It also plays. So I was playing 3 Hold Breacher and also 3 Narset Pardar Veils. So her static ability also is just each opponent can only draw one card per turn. So if you Days Undoing
Hmm.
on your turn, your opponent still gets to draw a card um, with a Narset in play, but they don't draw a card, and you get 7 treasures if it's your um, if I have a Hull Breacher in play. So
Yep.
no
Disgusting.
cards, no cards for with Hull Breacher, one card with Narset. So that's kind of the thing, and then it's all supported by just all the typical legacy stuff. You know, Brainstorm, Ponder, Force of Will, Force of Negations,
Hmm.
Jason the Mind Sculptor, Teferi Time Raveler. I got to
General
play,
control stuff.
yeah, Swords of Plowshare. I didn't want to play because I wasn't splashing a third color, which is typical in these shells. They're usually Jeskai.
Hmm.
Because I wasn't splashing a third color and Kason was playing his Volcanic Islands in his Storm deck, um, or else I would have splashed red. But anyway,
Hmm.
because he was playing those and I didn't have them, I went ahead and played March of Otherworldly Light instead of Prismatic Ending, which turned out to be an incredible card also, especially because I think I March of Otherworldly Light like something that was higher than 4 or 5 at one point
Nice.
during the
Yeah.
weekend. So, um,
Got
which
some
you
money
can't
out
do
of
with just 3 colors in your deck anyway. So it was felt good.
it. Hmm.
And then yeah, typical blue white, just sideboard plan with Flusterstorm, some Dress Downs, and some other stuff. Um, So yeah, that was the deck that I was playing, and so I played against Blue Red Delver, which is just number one top of the meta right now. Anyway, I've been consuming a lot of legacy content recently. Like that's the only actual Magic content that I consume at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Is Bosch and Roll on YouTube. Shout out, sponsor our podcast. He he makes incredible legacy content. If you've never watched his videos and you're interested in the legacy format, he brews up decks. He plays uh, like metagame staples. He does it all. So,
Nice.
but he's really really intelligent and talks through every single play that he does. So that's kind of where I learned about the modern or the legacy format anyway.
Uh-huh.
And so, do you have any experience with legacy at all, Jacob?
Some, not like a whole bunch. I've watched like content creators play Legacy, but I've never actually like physically played Legacy outside of like proxying. I proxied
Yeah.
up a Death and Taxes with like my friend, and we like played like a couple rounds. But like physically, like never really done like a tournament or like played actual cards of Legacy. But I've watched content. I played like a little bit of it.
Yeah, so I don't know if I mentioned too, but this was actually my first time to ever play Paper Legacy or in any kind of Legacy tournament or anything like that. So
Oh,
it's
really?
pretty
That's
cool.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah, so I played against Blue Red Delver, metagame All Star right now, top deck. Lost game one, and then we didn't get to finish the second game before round two pairings were done. Because, like I said, that was the round that we were late to, so it was just a fun game.
Yeah.
Round two, I got paired against Blue Red Delver again, and I lost both of those games. So I was like 0-2, feeling not so hot, and then I got the bye round three. So
Nice.
first Legacy tournament, I was like, this is boring. This is just not fun. So I was like, kind of didn't feel great about it. But then I got to play in the Legacy Challenge. Challenge Plus, so there were higher stakes, bigger prize pool for that one, and I played against Elves Reanimator, and went. Let's see, I went 2-1 against Elves and 2-0 against Reanimator.
Nice.
Elves was pretty long and grindy because I'm a control deck that doesn't attack very often, and my opponent was playing as their natural order target the Archon of, I can't even remember, Valor's Reach, I think is the one. So it's like a 6 mana 5/6, it's green white.
Okay.
6 mana 5/6, and whenever it enters the battlefield, choose a card type, and your opponents can't cast that card type. So
Oh, fun.
it's kind of like Sarah's Emissary, but it's green, so you can natural order for it, and it's also they can't cast it instead of you gain protection. So he was like instants, and I was like, oh, you mean my I can't remove anything with my Sword of Splashare or my March of Otherworldly Lights? Sweet. Like
Fun.
but eventually I was able to like stick a Teferi and bounce it, and he couldn't cast it again because he didn't have any green mana or white mana.
Nice.
So I was able to win against Elves in some pretty grindy games. And then Reanimator, in game one, I actually cast 5 total Force of Wills.
My God.
Because
That's
like
disgusting.
my opening hand had 2, and then I drew the other 2 just like naturally, and I was like turn 1, I was like, oh, I'm playing against Reanimator, cool. So I was like, Force of Will is going to be really good in this matchup. So I picked up 2 more, and then I Days Undoinged with the Hull Breacher in play, and shuffled up my deck and drew like more Force of Wills. So
What a
I
lad.
cast 5 Force of Wills.
That's amazing.
And then game 2 was, I don't even remember how
I mean,
that one played out, but probably pretty similar.
when you have a game where you cast 5
Yeah.
forces, I mean, like, what else are you gonna remember?
I also was able to correctly identify that he fetched up an Underground Sea, so I was like, oh, he probably boards in what's it called? He probably boards in Show and Tell, and so I think I like surgicaled his Gristle Brands or something game two, and he showed me a hand with Show and Tell and some other stuff, but no big monster. So I was like, nice, got him.
Heck yeah.
Plus, I had Force of Will for it, so didn't matter. um, but then round three, I had an intentional draw because we got more prize tickets that way.
Yeah, I remember you telling me about this.
So I played a fun game with somebody who wasn't supposed to be my opponent, but they were playing the same deck as my opponent because it was like late. It was like 7 p.m. or something like that already.
Yeah.
Or later maybe. And my round three opponent was like, "Hey, you want an intentional draw?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, sounds good. Let's go eat." And so he like shook my hand and was like, "Hey, what are you playing by the way?" I was like, "Blue White Hole Breacher," and he was like, "Oh, sweet." I was on 8 cast. I was like, "Okay, cool," with the Kappa Cannoneer.
Mm-hmm.
That deck is sweet too.
Oh yeah.
But anyway, I played against 8 cast anyway because the guy next to me was like, "Hey, you want to play a fun game?" And I intentional draws too, and I was like, "Sure." So I O2'd against 8 cast, so I'm glad that I went ahead and
Didn't have to do it.
did that. Yeah. So we'll skip, and so that was Legacy. I got to since we're on the Legacy already, I'll go ahead and talk about the last Legacy tournament that I did, which I only played one round of just because it was Sunday at 10:30 a.m. That's when it started, so I needed to drive back to Houston. So I was like, I'll play in one round just because I got the Infinite Challenge package and didn't really have to actually pay for it.
Yeah.
But I played against... what were you saying?
Sorry, continue.
I played against a blue-white show and tell deck that was playing Approach of the Second Sun and Invent as its win con. So
Nice.
it was pretty sweet. So game one, I was like, what the heck is this dude doing? I was like, mono blue High Tide? Like, that's what I wrote down in my notes. I was like, High Tide, I'm probably playing against that. He played some Impulses and a couple other, like, weird things. I was like, and just didn't play anything, basically. And I was like, okay, I guess he's doing nothing. Or, like, High Tide and didn't get a hand together. Was able to beat him. Game two, I boarded as if it was High Tide, and he goes Show and Tell Omniscience. And then he played Invent, which is, like, a split card from Guild Pact or something that searches up for an instant and a sorcery. And so, or like 2 sorceries or 2 instants or something like that. I don't remember what exactly he did. But so he went and got another Invent and an Approach of the Second Sun. So with Omniscience in play, you're just like, Approach of the Second Sun, it goes back 7th from the top, cast Invent again, go get the Approach again, cast it again, win the game.
Disgusting.
So I was like, oh, this is sweet. And then game 3 was pretty long and drawn out, and I was just able to counter a lot of his stuff, and he didn't have that many counters. But the weird card that he played was, I don't know if you know the name of it, I can't remember, but it's like Sublime something. It's 6 mana. It's kind of like the super cryptic command. So yeah, but anyway, he was playing that and Ancient Tombs in his deck, so I was like, this is crazy. I don't even understand what's happening. I guess it's really good with Omniscience in play. But Sublime Epiphany. So it's a 6 mana instant.
Yeah.
Counter. Choose one or more. So you can choose all of them if you have targets for them.
Oh my god.
But it's a counter target spell, counter target activated or triggered ability, return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand, create a treasure or create a token that's a copy of target creature you control, and target player draws a card. So it's like,
That's
yeah,
crazy.
it's like Cryptic Command on steroids. So anyway, that was my Legacy, and then Pauper, I got to play one Pauper event, which was fun. I only got to play 2 rounds, unfortunately, because I wanted to go to a Modern challenge, and that was starting at the same time as round 3. So anyway, I played against a black-red Madness deck that was using blood tokens as its kind of engine, which I was like, hey, that's pretty cool.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
That game was super dry. Actually, all of our games. I played a total of 4 games, and I went to time both rounds because, my deck was Black Green Tortured Existence, which basically just uses Tortured Existence, 1 mana enchantment, and it has an activated ability. Black, discard a creature card, return a creature card from your graveyard to your hand. So it basically just switches out for a single black mana creatures in your graveyard. Then you play Golgari Brown Scale as the main engine for that. That is, whenever it has Dredge 2, and whenever it returns to your hand from the graveyard, you gain 2 life. So if you have 2 of them, and like 1 in your hand, 1 in your graveyard, you can just switch them out for each other and gain 2 life per black mana that you have. And so like my life pad is ridiculous because it's like my life total is like 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, 13, 15, 14, 18, 17, 21, 25, 23, 30, and 80, and 28. That was just game 1.
Yeah.
And then so round 2 I played against the Jeskai Ephemerate Blink deck, like the Evoke Elementals and Blink. So it was like Moldrifter, Ephemerate it, get stuff back, and like it was just a crazy value engine. And so that one, my life total is even crazier. It's 20, 22, 24, 30, 32, 34, 33, 41, 40, 42, 41, 40, 42, 46, 45, 43, 41, 34, and so on.
Is there like any popper deck that can like compete with such a high life total?
Yeah, I mean, it's because like I wasn't really winning the game either, like because I didn't really have many creatures in play, because like my finishers are like Gurmag Angler and Sultai Scavenger, which is a 3/3 with Delve, and so those are my finishers, which they're pretty slow. Actually, game 1 I was able to defeat him with a Crypt Rats, which was hilarious, because I was like, Crypt Rats, I'll go from, I guess I probably have it in here somewhere. I was like, I'll go from 41 to 34. Crypt Rats you for 7, and then Crypt Rats, or like got it back with Tortured Existence, Crypt Rats again, and killed him, because I think he was at like 12 at that point or something like that. So
nice.
And I should have just kept going, because like at that point our game 2 lasted forever too, and we went into turns, and he won on like turn 4 of turns, like actually via damage, and I was like, dang,
that sucks.
Yeah, but anyway, that was my non-modern tournament. So I know you
a lot of fun stuff.
You kind of talked about your experience a little bit already in the command zone. So other than that long tirade of talking about SCG Dallas, which I'm glad that we got to talk about, because that was like the highlight of my Magic the Gathering year, and it probably will be. Other than that, what's been up with you in your life?
Yeah, same old. Still looking for a job. I was telling you a little bit beforehand. I got 2 interviews on Wednesday, so coming up in the next couple of days. Other than that, finally got like the wood bought to build like an actual like full-grown Warhammer table.
Nice.
So that's super exciting. Yeah, we got the leg finished, so we're gonna make trips up to Austin here in the next couple months, and just slowly start getting the table built. It's me and my girlfriend's dad. We're like doing like a building project, so doing that. Not much other than just existing, working, playing Magic, and building Warhammer tables.
Nice.
How about yourself?
Like good time.
Yeah,
I mean, kind of the same. SCG Dallas was definitely like the biggest thing that happened, but once we got into May, because we've only been in May for about a week now. But once we got into May, just everything kind of blew up, and like every weekend was like, oh, I've got 10 or 12 things going on, and I have to do all of this stuff.
That sucks.
And we got to celebrate Mother's Day for my wife, which was her first Mother's Day with a child in her arms. We celebrated last year because she was pregnant, but now that our son is actually here. We got to celebrate with her actually being a physical mother with child in her arms, which was great.
What do you guys do?
We didn't do anything too special. We had dinner with her family, and then we also spent some time cleaning our house. But she very, very much wanted to go and get pizza, so we went to Mod Pizza and got some pizza, which was really nice.
Yeah, heck yeah.
Other than that, yeah, I've just been working. We've made, or not we made. We recently had field day at school because I teach kindergarten through 8th grade, which was a lot of fun. The kids had a great time.
Heck yeah.
And actually today was kind of fun too, just because we had like a professional development. So it was kind of like we had somebody come in. It was actually via Zoom. So
fun.
We had somebody on Zoom that was talking to us about like strategies to keep students engaged and stuff. And I didn't really want to pay attention to that. I was kind of like, that's whatever. So our PE coach was on the Zoom call too. So to make it look like I was actually paying attention and taking notes, I was looking at his face on the Zoom call and then going down and drawing it.
Oh, that's fun.
So at the end of the day, I was like, "Hey, Coach V, here's your face."
Portrait.
And he's like, "Man, that's pretty close." I was like, "Thanks, I guess." He's like, "If I tried to draw it, it'd be a stick figure." And I was like, "Well, I am the art teacher, so I guess that makes sense."
Speaking of, when does school's like over for you guys? Like almost over, right?
Yeah, so our last day with students is May 23rd,
Okay.
and then May 24th we've got another professional development going on. So then I've got the summer off, baby.
Heck yeah.
Which is super cool. But yeah, we got some summer trips planned and stuff. We're going to Mexico, and then my mom's side of the family has a family reunion going on in Wisconsin. So that's kind of bookending our summer.
Yeah.
Right at the beginning of the summer and right at the end of the summer.
Heck yeah. I unfortunately don't have much of like an actual summer since I'm a working man. But we are planning on going to Colorado the end of July with my girlfriend's parents. So that'll be a lot of fun. They have like a little
that's
it's like a little Airbnb that they rent out like on the lake, and so we'll go and we'll walk around, and we have like walks and like hikes planned. So and I think my mom wants to do something. They got a pontoon about 2 years ago, I guess a year or two ago, and so they've been like trying to get onto lakes and ride around on the boat. So yeah,
nice.
Lots of fun stuff coming up.
Yeah, it sounds all fun.
Yeah. Well, we're hitting about the 30-minute mark. So you want to get this wrapped up and start talking about the deck?
Yep, so let's go ahead and take a short break, and when we come back, we will talk about the 4-color Sultai Stoneblade deck. Welcome back, everybody. We're going to go ahead and jump straight into the deck list for the 4-color Sultai Stoneblade deck that I brewed up myself. And some of the card choices might be a little bit weird, especially in the mana base. But that's mostly because those are the cards that I personally physically owned, because I knew that I wanted to do this deck since we were going to SCG Dallas with it. So anyway, we'll go ahead and run through it. So we've got 19 creatures. It's 4 Noble Hierarchs, 4 Icefang Coatls, 4 Stoneforge Mystics, 4 Tarmogoyf, and 3 Shardless Agent. Now, Shardless Agent was kind of a weird include because I was like, I just personally like the card a lot, and so the only things that we can really even cascade into are a couple of removal spells, a couple of discard spells, and the rest of the 16 creatures that we have. So your probably worst hit is Noble Hierarch, but it can still be pretty good.
It's not too bad.
And then we've got 18 non-creature spells. So that's so on my list that I'm looking on my screen, we've got 2 Fatal Push, 2 prismatic ending. In the leagues that we played online, we played just 4 Fatal Push, no prismatic ending. And then in Dallas, I actually played the 2-2 split, which I'm not super happy that I did because I cascaded into prismatic ending during 2 different rounds.
Always hate to see it.
Not very good. Other than that, we got some discard, 3 Inquisition of Kozilek, and 1 Thoughtseize, so just 4 pieces altogether. 3 Abrupt Decay, 1 Dakon Shadow Slayer, 1 Grist the Hunger Tide, 1 Sword of Fire and Ice, 2 Teferi Time Raveler, 1 Batter Skull, 1 Cauldron Complete, and then 23 lands, which is a bunch of one-ofs, some shock lands. We've got 4 snow-covered basics, 1 of each of the colors in the deck, just so that we can get our Icefang Quaddle. Notably, too, we've also got the Rimewood Falls, which is the blue-green land-typed fetchable snowland. Enters battlefield tapped, but it's just a good duel to grab for the Icefang Quaddle if that's kind of your plan that game.
Yeah, most definitely.
And then we got a sideboard, so 15 cards, obviously. 2 Lavinia Azorius Renegade. I really wanted to jam that in there for the Cascade matchup and Tron, a couple other things. 1 Engineered Explosive, 2 Path to Exile, 2 Veil of Summer, 1 Aether Gust, 1 Dovin's Veto, 2 Rest in Peace, 2 Ashiok Dreamrender, 1 Mystical Dispute, and 1 Sword of Feast and Famine. So, Jacob, whenever I sent you over this deck list, what were your first impressions of it?
I mean, it looked like a Jake deck, if I'm being honest. It looked like a deck that you have built before, but kind of just improved on with newer cards. Yeah, it's a fun kind of mid-rangey deck with a bit of control aspects. I really enjoyed it. Playing it felt fun. I guess the only thing that was kind of made me sad is I never actually was able to swing in with the Tarmogoyf. Typically, I would get a Tarmogoyf and it'd be a 4/5, and they'd Unholy Heat it, or they'd Fatal Push it, which happened more than once, or Prismatic Ending it. And so most of the wins that I did get were either from sticking an early Cauldron Complete, or getting an early Batter Skull out, which at that point on turn 3, if you have a Cauldron Complete or Batter Skull out, it's the game's pretty much over at that point. There's not much they can do to get back from it. But yeah, it was a really fun deck to play around with. I got in some games, some practice games, and then I got in 1 league. This month's been kind of busy for me, so I wasn't able to get the full leagues in. But I played a couple of different decks. So during my practice rounds, I won 3 games, lost 2. So lost to Death Shadow. That game was super close. They were just able to, I got a Stoneforge out and they were able to kill it, and then I was stuck with a Cauldron Complete in my hand for the rest of the game, and they were just able to beat me down with a big old Death Shadow. I played against this weird mono black control deck, it looked like. They just had a bunch of Keeley spells. And one game they're able to get out an Emrakul, which was not super fun for me. But I was able to win the second game just by quickly getting out of Cauldron. Oh yeah, well they can get out a Emrakul, but at that point they were at 2 life, so was able to kill them. Let's see, what else do I have here? I lost against Rakdos aggro, so the classic red-black aggro with Ragavans, Voidwalkers, Kroxa, Season Pyro, stuff like that. Again, it's I stick a Tarmogoyf who's a 4/5 or 3/4, and then Unholy Heat kills it, unfortunately, or they're able to. This guy was like running like terminate, which is weird. I haven't seen terminate in a while, but he was able to terminate it.
Yeah, I feel like that's usually more in Grixis decks, but I mean, sweet.
Yeah, it kind of funky.
Yeah.
Don't see that much. But yeah, after playing the practice leagues, like yeah, this deck is a fun kind of like mid-rangey deck. So I went ahead and hopped into a league. I went 2-3. I lost game 1 to Burn. I like didn't ever see a Stone Forge, and they were able just to like they had really good opening hands, like turn 1 into a Monterey Swift Spear, and then they had like Skull Crack and Rift Bolt and normal bolts, and then Boros Charm, and so I really like wasn't able to actually like stabilize very much. There was game 2 where I was stabilized. I had 7 life. They had a Rift Bolt come off and hit me for 4, and I had a Goyf on the field, and they had like 6 or so life. So I'm like, okay, all I have to do is just swing in twice with this Tarmogoyf, and I'll be fine. And then they top decked a Boros Charm and then hit me for 4. And so like, oh,
It's a tough way to lose to Burn.
yeah, it was unfortunate. Second game, I lost to Eldrazi-tron, which I haven't seen Eldrazi-tron in a hot minute. But yeah, they were able to both games get out a really quick Reality Smasher, and it's a 5/5 that makes you discard if you target it, and it has haste and trample, so they were able to get out like super quick, and I didn't have anything to stop them. They were able to get like 2, and so I was like, yeah, there's not much I can do. They hit me for 10 on turn like 3 or 4. Other than that, let's see, let me go down here. I won to Enchantress, which was like the first time I really saw like Enchantress in Modern. It was like fairly easy for me. He put down an Enchantress, and I fail pushed it, and he put down it's an enchantment that has whenever you play an enchantment, draw a card. He's able to get 2 of those out on game 2, but I had a Coldra complete, and so I was like, oh yeah, like you get to draw 2 cards whenever you play something, but you're pretty much dead. I have a big old 7/7, and then it was like a weird Golos deck. I didn't get to see much of what he played. He played a Golos and was able to get like a Coffers and an Urborg, and like make a bunch of mana, and then he had the it's like the land that you put 5 in and tap it, and it creates 1 of each color. It's from like
Cascade Bluffs.
yes, yeah, that.
Oh, no. Cascading Cataracts.
Something like that. Yeah, something like that. I'll put it on the screen. But he really didn't. He was able to spin a Golos, and he's like Golos Expedition map and a land, and so I was like, okay, cool, like that's fun. And so he really didn't do much, and I was just able to just outvalue him with like big Goyfs and Coldra and Batter Skull, and so that one went pretty good. I can't remember what the last deck was. I had 1 against Burn, 1 against Tron. Oh, sorry, I lost against Burn and Tron. 1 against Chantress and Golos. I'm not sure what my other deck was. I forgot to write down. But yeah, it was a fun deck. It was like a deck that I felt like kind of like bringing back to when I first started playing Modern. Like I always wanted to play like what's it called, expensive deck, Liliana's Goyfs, not Jund. Okay, yeah, I was gonna say rock, but it's not rock. It's Jund. Yeah, it's kind of like Jund E, which is like, yeah, we want to outvalue our opponents basically with good things and try to slap a Coldra or Batterskull early, and then kind of just win the game from tempo there. So it was fun. I had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah. Yeah, so I also only was able to get one actual Magic Online league in there. But then we talked about, I played it at SCG Dallas in paper. So I got a grand total of 5 matches in with that as well. So total of 10 matches. So I actually played 3 matches on Magic Online before SCG Dallas, and then just like went on a huge hiatus, I guess, for some reason. And then after SCG Dallas, like a week after, I finally finished up that league.
Yeah.
Which was kind of funny. But
like SGC Dallas was like super fun, but like after that I was like, man, I just need to take a break from Magic for a bit. Like I need to clear my mind. Like I have
definitely
too many lands.
Definitely needed a minute.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'll go through my MTGO league and then hop back into SCG Dallas.
Cool.
So my first 3 matches, I went 0-2. So I was like, I've made another garbage deck, and this deck can't even win anything. So I went 0-2 against Teamer Rhinos. And actually, I was looking back at a different place where I hold all of our decks and stuff, and realized that the deck that we played on Magic Online didn't have the Lavinias in. So, Teamer Rhinos, we didn't have the Lavinias in.
Yeah.
So in those slots, we were actually playing a third Veil of Summer and a Collective Brutality, which the Collective Brutality came up again later whenever I beat Burn, but we'll talk about that.
Okay.
And so, Teamer Rhinos, I was like, I don't have a single card to even like put in here. I guess Aether Gust, the one of Aether Gust.
Yeah.
And the Engineered Explosives, and maybe the Path to Exiles. So, but I just didn't really anything that I wanted to bring in. But both games were actually still super close, and I was like, well, maybe there's some potential here. And then round 2, we played against a podcast favorite, Amulet Titan, which I went 0-2. But again, both games were like super duper close, and I actually even survived a Titan attack.
Oh my god!
So I was like, heck yeah, this is great. Still went 0-2. I was like a turn or 2 from winning, and then he was just like, doop 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 doop, Titan thinks you die.
That sucks.
So I was like, well, lame.
It seems like Titan is like the meme of this podcast, where like each time was like, oh yeah, we're doing good until we hit Amulet Titan, and then they stomped our dick. Our dicks in.
Hey, on our first deck though, we were like, you know what? We should be playing Titan too. Card's too good.
It's fantastic.
Yeah. I don't know if we'll ever beat that deck. Anyway, round 3, I played against that new Tamashi Bloom deck, which plays like the Tamashi from Kamigawa. It's like you pay a red or pay a white X, return a land to your hand, and return an artifact with mana value X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. And so it just like keeps going back and back and back with Lotus Bloom, which is basically just Black Lotus in that deck.
Yeah.
And so it just recurs Lotus Blooms for a single white and returning a land. So as many lands as you have, you gain 2 mana.
Oh.
Because you pay a white, return a land, get it back from the graveyard to the battlefield, make 3 mana, pay 1, get it back. And so for every land that you have on the battlefield, you're gaining 2 mana. And then it it eventually generates 3 green mana and goes with 1 land left on the battlefield and plays a Colossus, Cultivator Colossus.
Oh, nice.
Which is like, you can put a land in your hand if you do draw a card, and you just picked up all your lands, so you've got plenty. And so it just like puts all those into play, and then it generates even more mana, and then it puts another one into play and generates even more mana. It draws like 30 cards, and then it casts a Finale of Devastation for 10, which gives all of your creatures +10/+10 trample and haste. Goes and gets another Cultivator Colossus, puts all of the lands into play, and then attacks you for like 100.
Way too much to count.
So literally my only notes are versus Tamashii Bloom. Not really sure how to play against this deck. It's a super weird deck. It's super cool, honestly, and super brewy. So I mean I had only respect playing against it. But I mean both games have felt pretty close against them also. So I don't know. Then I took a break because I was like, okay, I'm 0-6 in this league and I don't want to do anything. Went and played SCG, came back, and went 2-1 versus Blue-Red Murktide, which felt pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
That matchup feels pretty good, honestly. I mean, with Abrupt Decay that can't be countered and things like that to kill their smaller creatures. And then we also play like the Grist, Dagon, and Teferi, which are all really good against Murktide itself.
Yep.
Plus Ice Fang if you can get the 3 snow-covered permanents.
I don't think
so. Murktide felt like a really good matchup, honestly.
I don't think I got 3 snow-covered permanents at any of the leagues I was playing.
Yeah. Well, I kind of I tried to fetch pretty aggressively towards it if I had one in hand already. If not, and I was just like, oh, I'm only on 2 lands. Let me just keep, fetching up the dual lands that I need or whatever.
Yeah.
But most of the time, like if I had turn 1 like 2 fetch lands and Noble Hierarch, I would usually just go get Snow Covered Forest, play Hierarch, which gives me those 3 colors, and then if I could, Snow Covered Swamp, so that I had all 4 of my colors present.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I played it out a little bit. I think the best 2 lands, if you have only dual lands though, is actually a Watery Grave and a Temple Garden, because that gives you all 4 of your colors, and it also is blue-green, blue-white, and green-black, so that you can cast all of those dual color spells.
Yeah.
So if any of you guys at home are wanting to play this deck, that is how I would fetch up. And then round 5, I played against Burn. So game 1, I double Inquisitioned, and I took their Lightning Bolt and their Searing Blaze because I had a Snapcaster Mage, and those were the only spells that could target creatures. Was able to stick my Stoneforge Mystic and get a Batterskull and win the game very easily.
Heck yeah.
And then game 2, I kind of like ran them out of resources, and eventually was able to stick a Batterskull when I was at 1 life. And I was like, don't draw burn spell, and then they didn't, and so I was able to attack them and win.
Yeah, the opposite of what I experienced.
Yeah, actually in game 2, I had 2 Stoneforge Mystics, I think, and so first one got a Batterskull, second one got a Sword of Fire and Ice. So at one point I had a 6/6 Batterskull that had a Sword of Fire and Ice attached to it.
That's disgusting.
It was beautiful. So that was my Magic the Gathering online league, and then jumping back into SCG Dallas, I played in 2 total challenges. I played the full 3 rounds of one of the challenges, and then only 2 because I wanted to hop over into Pauper, I think.
Nice.
So or maybe it was something else. I don't remember. Anyway, so my first Modern Challenge I played against, so just a heads up, I played a total of 5 matches, went 0-5. It happens.
Yeah.
But I played against Green-White Boggles,